This short clip is from the September 12th, 2016 Ascend Conservatism Show. Dateline Bitch Slap of the Week. What some might call the most satisfying part of Dateline is here.
Dynamite!
This is where we administer instant justice. No media disinformation, no liberal spin, facts presented, and retribution given. This week's winner of the Bitch Slap of the Week San Francisco backup quarterback and bench warmer Colin Kaepernick.
Duh!
I mean, you talk about a no-brainer.
Yes, it is.
This anti-American,
Come on, what's the matter with you?
spoiled ingrate,
What's the idea?
multi-millionaire cheapskate has disrespected not only the American flag, the national anthem, our brave men and women of the armed forces, but the fearless police officers that protect and serve all of us.
Let me loose!
Those same police that not only protect his ungrateful butt at his NFL games, but protect his $3 million estate in the exclusive Silver Creek neighborhood of San Jose.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? But of course.
Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this prestigious award, you really have to be a monumental jerkweed to beat out everyone for the Bitch Slap Award. And in Kaepernick's case, he hit the trifecta.
Wow.
With a rarely achieved combination of cynicism, hypocrisy, and stupidity, this phony baloney NFL has been, and his faux outrage has forced me to bring Don Corleone on to tonight's show. Because the Godfather hates grown men acting like little sissies.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
Now let's backtrack for you a bit and explain what Colin Kaepernick's trifecta is. First, it's his cynicism that people will fall for his 11th hour conversion to the Black Lives Matter movement, precisely at the moment he was about to be cut from his team. And since no team wanted him in the offseason when the 49ers were trying to unload him, he knew his NFL career was almost over.
You're a big fat phony!
Which is why he pulled this stunt. He was cynically pre-playing the race card.
Shame on you.
And his hypocrisy is mind-blowing. Even though he signed a record 7-year, $126 million contract back in 2014, he never once donated 1 red cent to the black people and people of color he is using as a prop now.
Hypocrisy, claiming to uphold morals and values while your behavior says otherwise.
Not only is it hypocritical to now care about blacks, but he now calls them blacks and people of color. But back during a 49ers game just last year, he called a black player on the Chicago Bears a quote, unquote, effing N-word.
You scumbag!
Obviously, he said the full X-rated version of those 2 reprehensible words.
Come on, what's the matter with you?
And to complete the trifecta with the cynicism and hypocrisy, Kaepernick has shown monumental ignorance and stupidity. His wearing of socks depicting cops as pigs just emphasizes his moronic remarks about white police killing unarmed black men and getting away with it.
You're an idiot.
And while Colin Kaepernick cries about police brutality and killing unarmed black youths in the street left and right, he ignores the fact that in places like Chicago, There have been over 500 murders so far this year, and none of them perpetrated by a police officer. But that doesn't fit the liberal narrative. A recent deadly force study done by Washington State University researcher Lois James found that police are less likely to shoot unarmed black suspects than white or Hispanic suspects. Roland Fryer, an African-American economist professor at Harvard, analyzed over 1,000 officer-involved shootings. He concluded that there is zero evidence of racial bias in police shootings. The liberal Washington Post police shooting database and federal crime statistics show 12% of whites and Hispanics were killed by cops last year, while only 4% of blacks were killed by law enforcement. A police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be killed by a black male, and an unarmed black man is 18.5 times less likely to be killed by a cop. In the first 7.5 months of 2016 in Chicago, over 2,300 people were shot. The vast majority of those were black. But in the same time frame, only 12 people were shot by police, and all 12 were armed and dangerous. And after all the left's red herrings and blatant lies that have been thrown out there just to promote the false liberal narrative about racist cops, what has been the result? There have been over twice as many police victimized by fatal shootings in the first 3 months of 2016 than the same period last year. And this hypocrite Kaepernick says that he has relatives that are in law enforcement?
Liar, liar, liar.
And to pile on the stinking heap of hypocrisy surrounding Kaepernick's actions this summer, in an incident from April of 2014, after a night of wild South Beach partying in Florida, there was a naked lady in Colin Kaepernick's hotel suite that refused to leave. So who do you think they called?
Anyone? 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 Anyone?
They called the police.
Hello.
In a 911 call acquired by TMZ, it was either Kaepernick or his bestie, fellow 49er, Ricardo Lockett, who called the brutal and oppressive pigs to help them out when they had a situation.
Look into the mirror and see your own hypocrisy.
You can't make up this type of colossal hypocrisy.
That's a fact, Jack!
And you can't make up this numbskull's ignorance to truth, facts, and history. Just last month, this social justice warrior who fights against the oppression of blacks wore a Fidel Castro t-shirt during a press conference.
Say what?
Yep. This newly crowned activist idolizing Fidel Castro who, after just a few years into his dictatorship, declared his policies a total success and henceforth made it a crime to complain about racism or racial inequality in Cuba. That policy is still in effect today. One of the most egregious examples of oppression of black people was the imprisonment of Sonia Garrow, imprisoned for speaking out just like Kaepernick.
Oh, sweet irony!
Imprisoned by Kaepernick's hero, Fidel Castro.
You don't say!
Sonia Garrow, an Afro-Cuban, was put in prison for almost 3 years just for speaking out against the oppressive Castro regime. And not only her. She and many in the group called Damas de Blanco were fired from their jobs and subsequently arrested for calling for the release of their husbands who were political prisoners, who were real victims of real police brutality, beaten and tortured by Fidel's secret police. Real police brutality. Not by Kaepernick's imaginary American police brutality. And he wears a shirt idolizing the #1 oppressor of blacks in Cuba.
You're a moron!
And just to close out this phony AstroTurf outrage over oppression of the black community,
We call it AstroTurf. It's not really a grassroots movement. It's AstroTurf by some of the wealthiest people of America.
Kaepernick was scheduled to speak to the predominantly black congregation of San Francisco's Third Baptist Church at their Sunday service 2 weeks ago. Hallelujah. But he bailed on them, canceling.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Canceling with a lame excuse.
Come on, what's the matter with you?
Even retired NBA players have weighed in on this faux social justice outrage. People like Laker legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who came out and called Colin Kaepernick courageous.
That's retarded, sir.
How about someone, anyone in the black community being courageous enough to call out the President of the United States, who has decimated the black community in his 8 disastrous years? Under Barack Obama, there are now 39% of black children living in poverty, up from what it was under the racist George W. Bush. Black youth unemployment is at a staggering 40%, while black teen unemployment in cities like Chicago has hit 90%. Black poverty has risen to 27.2% since Obama took office, with a record 12.2 million working-age blacks unable to find a job. Black workers' net worth has declined 20% since 2009, and the wealth gap between blacks and whites hasn't been so wide in 25 years. Does anyone have real courage to expose Obama as the catalyst for the black community's destruction over his 2 terms? Or do they want to keep sitting on their asses, whether it's at an NFL game or in their own communities? Will anyone of courage use their First Amendment right and speak out on the main catalyst for the economic depression of blacks in America? The over 3 million illegals flooded into the U.S. through Obama's intentionally porous borders and taking the urban jobs away from the black community.
Shame on you, Mr. President.
When there were grumblings from the crowd at the 2011 Congressional Black Caucus Convention, what was Obama's response?
I don't know. I don't know.
Was it that he would do a better job with inner-city crime?
No.
Was it that he would create a black youth employment strategy?
No. No, no, no.
Was it that he would work to get the record 12.2 million blacks back to work?
No. Hell no.
No. It was, get to the streets and get me reelected, so I can bury you all under another flood of illegal Hispanics and my new flood of Muslim refugees.
Take off your bedroom slippers. Put on your marching shoes. Shake it off. Stop complaining. Stop grumbling. Stop crying.
Oh, no. Come on now, baby.
That's right. Places like Detroit and Chicago are turning into the killing fields for black youth, and black unemployment is going through the roof, and all Obama has to say is,
stop complaining. Stop grumbling. Stop crying.
But then again, the hypocrisy by the so-called black leaders has been staggering. The chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Missouri Democrat Representative Emanuel Cleaver, said just days before that same CBC convention in an interview with McClatchy newspapers that if Obama had been a white president and had failed to address those same problems in the black community, quote, we would probably be marching on the White House, unquote.
Just raise it! Just raise it! Just raise it! Just raise it!
And these schmucks like Kaepernick who sit, kneel, or raise their fists during the national anthem protesting about some white boogeyman keeping them down while earning millions in the NFL and ignoring the real roots to the oppression of the black community today.
Hey, why don't you pull your head out of your butt?
Now the fact of the matter is, it has been the Democrats that have been in control of 2/3 of the government for 8 of the last 10 years.
That's a fact, Jack!
Now in Colin Kaepernick's famous Fidel Castro t-shirt was also 60s civil rights activist Malcolm X. And the ignorant Kaepernick might be wise to listen to what Brother Malcolm had to say back in his famous speech he delivered in April of 1964, speaking out about blacks blindly supporting the Democrat Party.
Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
But Kaepernick is nothing but a chump. A chump for not focusing his protest on the true perpetrators that have been overseeing the complete decimation of the black community for almost a decade now. President Obama and the Democrats. Instead of being grateful for a country that has allowed them to earn millions playing a kid's game, they should be grateful for a country that has given opportunities to people like Herman Cain, who came from poverty to be one of the most successful CEOs in the country. Or be grateful for a country that has given opportunities to people like Dr. Ben Carson, who worked his butt off to rise to the pinnacle of his medical profession. Or be grateful for a country that has given opportunities to people like Condoleezza Rice, who was born into the racist South in Birmingham, Alabama, fought her whole life through real racism and strife to become the first and only African American woman to ever be fourth in line to the presidency of the United States of America. Instead of acting like spoiled little punks and use tired liberal false flags, get off your asses, leave your mansions, and go to the real places of real oppression. Go to the inner cities of America that have turned into poverty-stricken shooting galleries. And yes, call out the politicians that have promised everything but delivered nothing, even if those lying crooks are Democrats. Because if you don't,
you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget, join us every Monday night for the Ascend Conservatism Show on War Radio. That's We Are America Radio.